The moment you decide to take a pilot trip to Israel, you are no longer just a tourist planning a vacation. You are stepping into the shoes of someone who might soon call this country home, and that shift in perspective changes everything about how you should approach your visit. A pilot trip is not about seeing the Western Wall at sunset or floating in the Dead Sea, though you may certainly do those things if time allows. It is about waking up on a Tuesday morning in a neighborhood you are considering and walking to the local makolet to buy milk and bread. It is about sitting in a park and watching how families interact, how children play, how elderly couples stroll arm in arm down tree-lined streets. It is about standing at a bus stop during rush hour and feeling the rhythm of daily life pulse around you. Planning this kind of trip requires a different mindset entirely, one that prioritizes the mundane over the magnificent, because the mundane is what will become your life. Begin your planning process at least 3 to 4 months before your intended travel dates, as this gives you sufficient time to research, reach out to contacts, and secure appointments that may have limited availability. Start by making a list of every city and neighborhood you have ever considered living in, even if some of them seem unlikely or were mentioned only in passing by a friend of a friend. This list will serve as your starting point, and you will narrow it down as you learn more. For each location on your list, write down what draws you to it and what concerns you have. Perhaps you have heard that Ra'anana has excellent schools, but worry that it might feel too insular. Maybe you are intrigued by the energy of Tel Aviv, but wonder if you could afford an apartment larger than a closet. These notes will guide your research and help you formulate the right questions to ask when you arrive. Once you have your preliminary list, begin researching each location in earnest. Join Facebook groups dedicated to specific cities or neighborhoods and read through months of past posts to get a sense of the issues that come up repeatedly. Are people constantly complaining about parking? Is there enthusiasm about a new community center being built? Do parents seem satisfied with the local schools? These online communities are gold mines of unfiltered information, and you should not hesitate to post your own questions, introducing yourself as someone planning a pilot trip and asking for recommendations of people willing to meet with you. You will be surprised by how many strangers are willing to give an hour of their time to help a future Ole, and these connections can prove invaluable both during your trip and after you make Aliyah. As you research, begin building your itinerary, but hold it loosely. A pilot trip requires structure to be productive, but it also requires flexibility to be meaningful. Block out your days in broad strokes, assigning each day to a particular region or purpose. Perhaps Monday and Tuesday will be dedicated to exploring the Sharon region, Wednesday to Jerusalem neighborhoods, Thursday to meetings with absorption counselors and bureaucratic research, and Friday to revisiting your top choice for a final gut check before Shabbat. Within each day, schedule specific appointments in the morning and early afternoon, but leave your late afternoons free for wandering, for stumbling upon a cafe that catches your eye, for striking up a conversation with a shopkeeper who has lived in the neighborhood for 30 years. These unplanned moments often yield the most valuable insights. Your appointment list should include meetings with real estate agents who specialize in rentals, even if you plan to buy eventually, because understanding the rental market helps you understand affordability and demand in ways that purchase prices alone cannot reveal. Schedule visits to schools if you have children, calling ahead to arrange tours and meetings with administrators who can explain the integration process for new immigrant children. If you are considering a particular synagogue community, reach out to the rabbi or community coordinator before you arrive and ask if you might attend a weekday service or community event during your visit. Contact the local absorption center or municipal Klida department in cities you are seriously considering and ask about their services for new Olim, as some municipalities offer far more support than others. If you have a profession that requires licensing or certification in Israel, schedule a meeting with the relevant professional organization to understand exactly what the recognition process will entail. Do not neglect the practical logistics of daily life in your research and planning. If you will need a car, spend time during your pilot trip driving in the areas you are considering. During rush hour and on quiet weekend mornings, to understand traffic patterns and parking availability. If you plan to rely on public transportation, actually ride the buses and trains, not just once as an experiment, but multiple times, to different destinations, at different hours. Time your commute from potential neighborhoods to wherever you expect to work, and do this during actual commuting hours, not at noon when the roads are empty. Visit the local health clinics, known as Kupat Cholim, and ask about wait times, specialist availability, and the process for registering as a new patient. Walk through the supermarkets and note the prices and selection, imagining yourself doing your weekly shopping there. These mundane experiences are the building blocks of your future daily life, and you cannot evaluate a neighborhood without understanding them. Consider the season carefully when scheduling your pilot trip. If you are considering a move to a city in the north, visiting only in the lush green of spring will give you an incomplete picture of what August feels like when the hills are brown and the air shimmers with heat. If you are drawn to a beach community, experiencing it in the quiet of winter is very different from the crowded summer months. Ideally, you would take multiple pilot trips across different seasons, but if time and budget allow for only one visit, try to schedule it during a season that will test your assumptions rather than confirm them. If you think you want to live somewhere hot, visit in summer and see if you can tolerate the heat. If you are worried about isolation during the colder months, visit in January and see how much social activity actually takes place. Finally, as you plan, prepare yourself emotionally for what a pilot trip truly is. It is not a vacation, and if you approach it as one, you will return home with beautiful photos but little clarity. A pilot trip is work. It is exhausting in a way that tourism rarely is, because you are not just absorbing experiences but constantly evaluating them, weighing them, imagining yourself into them. You will likely feel overwhelmed at some point, perhaps standing on a street corner in a neighborhood that looked perfect online, but feels all wrong in person, wondering if you are making a terrible mistake by considering this move at all. This is normal. This is, in fact, the point. A pilot trip is meant to surface your doubts and fears so that you can address them before you pack up your life and move across the world. Embrace the difficulty, trust the process, and remember that every moment of confusion or uncertainty is bringing you closer to clarity about whether, when, and where you will make Israel your home.